Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests on. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May, our organizational, our clinical, and our forensically trained psychologist. She is also the president of the Michigan Psychological Association Foundation Board. Good evening, Dr. Angie. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fantastic. Thank you. Doing very well. Feeling very thankful. How are you?
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. So, it is very appropriate that this is the night before Thanksgiving. So there are a lot of sweet potato pies and pumpkin pies and greens and macaroni and cheese and ham and turkey. Yes, I'm making us all hungry. And steak and crab legs and lobster. All that good stuff is being prepared the night before for tomorrow's feast on Thanksgiving here in America. And what better way to talk about the importance of being grateful and the impact that it has on our lives. So, yes. First question to you, why is being grateful important and how can it positively impact our lives?
Well, I would start with, I'm adjusting things, sorry. I would start with your first question. I would start with defining. I'm a professor, we're educators. I start with defining terms. What do we mean? So when we think about the word grateful or thankful, what are we really saying? Another way to say grateful is appreciate. So if we think in terms of saying, when you say, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for sweet potato pie. I really am. You're saying, as well as the magic hands that prepared it. What we're saying is, I appreciate this. I appreciate this. So if we keep that in mind, that gratefulness / thankfulness, both equal appreciation, then we can better see how it can positively impact our lives in multiple ways. If we, I always speak in terms of our thoughts, our habits. Sometimes the way that we think, it just kind of goes hand in hand with our personalities. Psychologists, we study behavior, we study personality patterns, all that good stuff. And so we know that, when babies come into the world, what it's like when babies come in and everyone waits to see whose personality do they have. Oh my goodness, they remind me of grandpa, blah, 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 you start to see that those individual traits start to emerge. Well, along with those traits come, personality traits come we sort of lean towards certain ways of thinking and being. And so some of that's natural. Some people are just naturally tend to be upbeat. That's just like a natural part of who they are. Other people just naturally tend to be maybe a little more chill, a little more. So that's the part that just kind of comes with the traits and the genetics and things we inherit. And then a huge part of it, of course, are the influences, the environment that we're raised in, the kinds of things we hear, though our moms and dads and uncles and guardians, the teachers, the kinds of things we hear people say around us very much influences our habits of thought as we develop, as we grow up. The good news is that we can, as with other habits, we can change and influence our habits of thinking, just like we change other habits. So having said all that, it can be easy, with life stress, and stuff that goes on, to fall into habits, mental habits of responding to not just stress, just responding to life with negative thought patterns, to go to that. It can become a habit. So you may kind of lean towards that if that's sort of your personality, but then if you add that mental habit on top of it, we know that, a lot of research out there shows how negative attitudes, carrying around a lot of anger, one of the key reasons that we say to let go of holding grudges. No, don't hold grudges, don't hold bitterness, because not only does it toxify the environment, but it hurts ourselves. So
Absolutely.
when we hold, we hold that negative energy in, every organ, it negatively can impact our own health, our digestion, our heart rate, you name it. So a mental habit of gratefulness can do the opposite. And again, research has shown, I am one to say that even though I'm a social scientist and I do enjoy research and all that good stuff, I often say that as research sometimes just lags behind, science just, does wonderful things, gives us some great answers, but sometimes they kind of lag behind what the old folks already knew. Like science had to catch up and find out. That's why those herbs work to heal those wounds or whatever. So science, I would like to throw that out as a precursor, because I think, balance is important. So even though I'm a social scientist, I'm not one to lean on, science. Science is very important. It has its place. But also just that wisdom from living. The wisdom from living, the things that people have learned over the years and decades and generations have passed down to us. So I would say that both that wisdom as well as science has shown us that positive attitudes and gratefulness goes hand in hand with that. A grateful attitude, grateful thought patterns contribute to having a positive energy and positive, attitude. We know that helps with healing of chronic diseases. We know that helps with quality of life. More and more medical professionals now do also encourage for example, their patients dealing with cancer and other, very traumatic physical issues. They do encourage them to, and their support systems around them, their family and friends who support them, to really try to keep their spirits up. Why is that so important? Keep your spirits up, that positive attitude, because it literally impacts us at the cellular level, all the way down to our, our bloodstream and everything. So the positivity, that positive attitude is fed, I would say, by gratefulness. It's fed by a mental habit of seeing. It doesn't mean walking through with blinders on and pretending that, that's not really a tornado coming at you. It doesn't mean that. It's a tornado.
Run!
Right. It is a tornado. It really is. So we don't mean don't call a thing, but when you have a grateful attitude, as with positivity, it often leads to a more open mind, where instead of, oh, well, we just all gonna die, and here comes a tornado, it's right there. And whereas a grateful attitude is, what, I'm so thankful and grateful for my life. So let me start now to problem solve and see if we can get out of here so I can preserve that life. It just opens to that. So we call a thing, but it helps us, gratefulness helps us to appreciate. And when we appreciate, we tend to do a better job of taking care of. So when we appreciate our plants, we take better care of our plants. When we appreciate the earth, we tend to at least want to, or be at least interested in trying to take better care. And it just goes on down. It impacts relationships, with ourselves, with others, all that. So lots of positive impact from gratefulness, I would say.
Well said. I absolutely agree with all of it. It reminds me, and I want to use your tornado example, because that to me is just hilarious. Because I can see that, and I've seen this in offices. So you have the office dynamic. Everyone comes in the morning. We have our coffee. Some people have their earbuds on. Some people are singing. Some people are just in a great mood. And here comes Debbie Downer. Oh, she comes through the door and you're like, good morning, Debbie. What's good about it? It's morning. I'm here at work. I don't want to be here. My vacation didn't get approved, or my husband getting on my nerves, or my kids getting on, it's always something. And I
Yeah.
get some people have hard lives. And so I'm exaggerating this to make a point. But a lot of times what happens is we get people who are struggling with whatever. And many times I liken it because I can only talk about myself. I have been the Debbie Downer, didn't realize I was being the Debbie Downer. But because I'm struggling with something and I'm not acknowledging that it's a thing, I keep saying, nope, that's not a tornado. I don't know what you hear what? I hear a train coming and there's no train. I don't know what you hear because I don't hear nothing. You keep saying the sky is dark. I'm like, it's 7 o'clock at night. It's supposed to be dark. It's nighttime. What are you talking about? But in reality, I'm not acknowledging it. And as you interact with people, because you have a negative energy that interacts with everyone else, and then the energy in the room goes down.
Absolutely.
And so I've seen it where we've been in a room where you're having a good time and Debbie Downer walks in and you're like, ooh, you know what? It's time to go home. Cause yeah, I seen a tornado now for real. Come on, y'all, let's go. The shelter is over there. And they're like, what shelter? We about to die. No, we going to the shelter. It's right there. Okay. Because you're so stuck in whatever your situation is, you don't see the help that is there or the options that are there for you.
Absolutely.
And the second thing that I would add to that, which is a favorite saying of mine, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So whoever you're angry at, no matter what it is, and I said this to a woman on Twitter this morning, true story. She talked about how someone in her family had molested her. They died. And her mother said, do not go on social media and talk about this. No one, we're not talking about this story. You need to let it go. And so she said, here I am trying to process that my family doesn't want to acknowledge the abuse that happened to me. This person has now died. I will never get the acknowledgement or the closure that I'm looking for, but I need to move on. And I said to this woman, I said, I pray for you. I hope that you can forgive this person, not because they didn't do something wrong or you want to forget, so that I said, so that you can heal and move on with your life, because you don't want this to hold you back. And because it's Thanksgiving, and you know, I love to use my little red truck story from 1974. Dr. Angie, you took my red truck. I'm still mad at you. You wouldn't give it to me. You turned it into a plant pot. And you got your little plants over there in my red truck that I had in 1974. You know I wanted that red truck. And so here we are. We can ready to have Thanksgiving dinner. And you're gonna bring that crazy macaroni and cheese that you like to bring that's really not that good. I'm just saying as your cousin. And so I'm gonna bring my greens, and then I'm gonna come over there and you're gonna unwrap your macaroni and cheese and you're gonna bump me. And I'm gonna say, yeah, that's why you stole my red truck. I want my red truck back. So yes, we're laughing because I'm trying to illustrate a point. When people come together as families on the holidays, oftentimes relationships are prickly during the other parts of the year. People don't often see each other. You know, we just did a show a couple months ago where we were talking about when you come home and somebody says, oh, you fat, you gained some weight. Are you married yet? And you're like, oh, I don't want to go to Grandma Betty's house because Grandma Betty gonna crack on me and tell me that I done got fat. Well, we've been in COVID. I can't go anywhere. My gym is closed. We have state mandates, or I'm scared to go out because of COVID. So I just been sitting in the house eating Reese cups because, you know, that's what I want to do. And it made me happy. And yes, I gained 10 extra pounds. Leave me alone. And you said, well, acknowledge it. You said, yes, I know I've gained weight, but there's more of me to love. I'm here to see all of you. It's great to see you. All right, guys, next year, bring some apple pie. But we get into these dynamics where people develop real anxiety, real stress, because instead of being grateful, I have a family to go and see. I have someone who is asking me to come. They're filled with dread because Cousin Kim is going to be there, and Cousin Kim is still raving about her red truck from 1974. Or such and such is going to come in here and insult me because I've gained weight, or because I'm not married, or because I make more money than everybody in the family, and everybody gonna say, oh, well, who you think you are? What kind of bag is that? Hermes, who's Hermes? What? And you like, grandma, is Hermes. Who is Hermes? Where you know, it's like that. And we know this because we sit around and we talk to friends and we laugh and we go, do people really act? And then we meet somebody and we go, oh, wow. And then you have real consequences where you have people who've been abused, who are still in the family. They haven't been separated. And these people still have to interact with them. How can people who are struggling with that have a sense of gratefulness that you have family, yet still protect their own peace?
Wow, that's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. And I think that the answer is plural because there are multiple answers because the same answer doesn't fit everyone. But I will say this, that I would say is pretty universal. The starting place, I would say, for each individual situation is to start by dealing with a couple things. One is start with gratefulness. And then the second thing is asking yourself, what do you need? You know, what do you need? Where are you? So the gratefulness part, it really is a practice. Like, you know, people talk about practicing yoga, practice meditation, you know, but it really is a practice. And, you know, I'm a professional artist. You're an artist, a writer, you know, we need to, they're living things. Like, we get to practice these gifts and talents and these activities to perfect them. And they never get perfect, but to continue to grow. So appreciation and gratefulness and thankfulness, it really is a daily practice. And it really, because you know how you practice things over time, you don't always see it in the moment, but over time, you get stronger at it. And you begin to see how you can tap into it quicker and quicker because you're practicing it so, you know, daily, that you can tap into that. So for example, you know, there are people who perhaps at one time suffered from anxiety and started a regular practice of prayerfulness, of getting still, of meditation. And, you know, it can be bumpy at first, you know, it's hard to get settled down at first or whatever, and may you just be for 30 seconds at a time. Then you can do a full minute. Then, you know, until slowly building that until the day comes when a very anxiety producing kind of situation presents itself, and you find yourself, you know, pretty quickly and almost kind of like easily, you know, getting into that mode of, you know how to breathe, you know what to do because you practice it every day. So gratefulness as a practice, I would say same thing. You know, everyone uses the term trigger now. Trigger. What's your trigger? People being triggered. I find triggering trigger. I find that word trigger. No, I just tease it.
But I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, it's trigger. Right. I mean, I think it's a good word because it really does evoke, you know, the image of what we're talking about, where you do feel triggered. It's a good descriptor. But for these kinds of situations that you describe, which can be very triggering for people, if you're already practicing, and you know, you can start this moment, you know, practicing an attitude of gratefulness, which is appreciation. Just as with the meditation in the moment of the highest anxiety, the I guess you could say that stressful situation, not only when it presents itself, but like you said, you know, leading up to it, it's looming, you know, people start to get stressed just thinking about, like you said, next week I'm going to be at grandma's house. Start with appreciation, start with gratefulness. some of the things like you said, that we talked about in the last show, appreciating that you have family,
Mhm.
and the families aren't perfect, but there are people who go through life really trying to work through a hole that they have because they never knew who their mom was, or never knew who their dad was, or never knew, certain relationships they may have just never had because of death or whatever the case.
Mhm.
So definitely starting with practicing that. And as with the meditation and the prayerfulness, I really think that mentally going through a list, like the old was it Negro spiritual, old folks used to say, count your blessings one by one. By the time you get to the fifth and the seventh one, it's amazing how it shifts your mentality. Like before you know it, things still aren't perfect, but your attention and your energy has gone to a different place, and that helps to lift some of that stress and anxiety off of you, and even some of the depression.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good place to start, as you're getting ready to deal with the situation. So like that's like number one. So
Mhm.
in terms of dealing with the actual situation, I want to back up for a second. It's kind of like, how they tell us not to go grocery shopping when we're starving.
Mhm.
So this is the same kind of thing. I would say it's analogous. It makes it more difficult, I think, to handle. I know it is more difficult to handle situations if you're, you know, thinking about it, getting more and more stressed, more and more anxious about it, and now you're gonna take all that anxiety that for the past month has been building up because you knew Thanksgiving was coming, and now you got to go into the house. No. So just as with, you want to make sure you have a good meal before you go shopping, grocery shopping, doing that taking time for that gratefulness to like kind of center your mind on that.
Mhm.
Same idea. You want to bring the temperature down, bring the anxiety down a little bit, just kind of focus on the things you're grateful about, and in preparation for going into the anxiety inducing situation or potentially anxiety inducing. So that's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of the actual situation, and it is the day before Thanksgiving. So let's
Mhm.
say that you haven't developed this yet or worked on it. You can
Mhm.
start at this very, very moment. One of the things that is helpful, I think, is to actually write it down.
Mhm.
Like, and if you're not used to doing it, it can feel kind of weird at first, you know.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've seen this as well, where people will literally, it's often easier to be on the outside looking in. When we look at them, we can see lots of things that they can be grateful for.
Mhm.
But for some people, if they're not used to that way of thinking, that kind of mentality, especially when dealing with these kinds of, family situations and really stressful, anxiety-inducing situations, they're not in the habit of just counting blessings. It seems
Mhm.
counterintuitive.
Mhm.
So when we look at them, we can see lots of things. But I've seen this lots of times where, I will challenge a person to say, well, what are you grateful for? And they're like, it takes a minute, and really think hard. And that's
Mhm.
not a bad thing. I think it's good because it reminds us of how much we're not.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're not paying attention to all the positive, and it really can shine a light on ourselves. Like you were saying about yourself, like you didn't realize you were Debbie Downer at that moment. I think we've all, had
Mhm.
known what that's like being the Debbie Downer, and we
Mhm.
catch ourselves.
Mhm.
It's yet another fantastic thing about this gratefulness and this attitude of appreciation. It really can help us see ourselves a little more clearly,
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
well as seeing situations and others. So, if you just can't think of more than two, then write down two,
Mhm.
write down three,
Mhm.
and really, really think about it, like really study it for a minute and really think about it. Um, that's one thing, is really take time to think about some things to be really thankful for that
Mhm.
can alleviate some anxiety and stress. Um, True painful tragedy really, really is real. If
Mhm.
absolutely it is real,
Mhm.
but rarely is it all that there is in life. It can take up a
Mhm.
big part of our mental space and emotional and psychological, spiritual space because it's so painful.
Mhm.
But the practice of listing or naming or just saying or thinking about some things to be grateful for, it it helps to step away from the trees and see the forest and realize that while that's absolutely true and it needs to be healed and tended to, it's not the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason for, it's not the only thing, of course, but part of the reason for the anxiety and stress is these horribly tragic things that happen to people. It comes to define their existence. You
Right.
can let it really define your life. And
Mm-hmm.
especially when these things happen during your developmental years, when you're younger,
Mhm.
it's a part of your story, and it
Mhm.
can become to define you. Gratefulness and appreciation, like practices, thinking, listening, whatever, it can help you see and remind you that it's not your whole story, that
Mhm.
there's more to your life than that, and you're not only defined by that.
Mhm.
So that's just all of that. I think it's just really much. It's a simple thing. It's a simple word, gratefulness, but it's
Yeah.
much more powerful, I think, than a lot of times we realize or give credit for. So having done that, and then you're dealing with the situation.
Mhm.
So, like I said, it's not the same for everyone. But let's take the one the example that you gave that was maybe the one of the worst that one could think of, and that's like, it's horrible that just the idea of being molested at any age, let
Mhm.
alone when you're a child, and then the person's still there,
Right.
like sitting at the table.
Mhm.
Um, I go back to some things I had said in the last show, that it really depends on where you are. If you're at a place where it's just really too painful, it doesn't matter if it was 45 years ago. If you never felt you really had dealt with it, if it's just like fresh pain right there,
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you have to put that pressure on yourself to be there for that. If they're going to be there.
Mhm.
Um, there are creative, and it's not easy. You've got family to navigate. Well, why aren't you going to come by? Why, whatever. That's what I said. You can come by. You can do it a lot. You can do it in creative ways. Like you said, you come by, you may spend a little time, and you may even time it, because you really do want to spend some time with your grandma. You really want to spend some time.
Mhm.
Come by and maybe just enjoy that meal with them, and leave if you can do that. If you
Mhm.
absolutely feel that you can't, um, something else you can do is because this kicks off the holiday season here in America. Other things that people can do is to create time, schedule individual time with your loved ones over the next, from now into the years we're going into the holiday season, even if you can't be at that table because it's
Mhm.
just too gut wrenching for you. You just are not able to.
Mhm.
And this is important too, to remind yourself that if that's just absolutely, if it's just too painful. And a lot of times on that holiday, on the day of the holiday, may not be the day to address it. Although we
Mhm.
know a lot of
Mhm.
times that stuff explodes on
Mhm.
family day.
Mhm.
That can be a time to just, say you don't feel, I don't advocate lying. You don't feel well because psychologically and emotionally, you don't feel well. This is absolute
Right.
truth. You can say you don't
Mhm.
feel well,
Mhm.
and you'll get you'll pick up a plate tomorrow, day after Thanksgiving, maybe. Now, this isn't a case where you just really feel you can't be there. It's like totally
Mhm.
triggering
Mhm.
issue.
Mhm.
So there are lots of ways to do that. You make a special date to take your uncle out to lunch, because this, even over Thanksgiving weekend, if you can, people are off for the most part, off work, make it a Saturday,
Mhm.
or go, and we know we're dealing with COVID, so it's not a lot that people can do, but you can spend time with your loved ones and not feel forced to be in the room or at the table with the person who just violated you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there are ways to kind of do that. Um, and it's not always easy, depending on, a lot of times families don't understand. They don't
Mhm.
know why you can't be in that, but that's why I say I don't feel quite up to it. I love you all. I miss you. I'll see if I feel better tomorrow, and stop by and chat.
Mhm.
And let's have lunch tomorrow. Come by the house or whatever. Save a
Right.
plate for me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's a way to do it if you just really need that distance. If you starting with gratefulness first in your own mind, and then if you are gonna go, you feel you can go, that person's there, uh, uh, then there are like levels. Like I said, you kind of tailor it to what works for you.
Mhm.
Maybe like I said, go and enjoy the meal, but you know keep it to no more than an hour and a half or whatever, whatever you need to do. Like we said last show, schedule it with somebody, have somebody call you Oh, gotta go.
Oh, go.
Oh, wow. Okay, you know what? Or whatever. Whatever works for you. For a lot of people, and it really is something that we know the holidays really bring to the forefront, but it really is a lot of times, to me, it's just an indicator of work that really needs to get to over the course of the rest of the year, as much as you're able to. It doesn't mean everything's going to be magically fixed. And people put it off as painful, as difficult, deal with that. It's messy. It's all, all that. People aren't ready necessarily. I understand all that's true. It can feel, but having said that, if you're not trying to find ways to work on that the rest of the year, whether it's with therapy, maybe confronting the person and dealing with them, talking it through with a trusted somebody else in the family, a friend who maybe can help you through that, or come with you, because sometimes families go into denial, as you know. They may know all about it and think that you should just get over it and treat, so that could be an option too. Maybe bring a trusted friend with you to that dinner to sit next to you, hold your hand or whatever, because it can feel like it's doubly unfair. I was violated, and now, because people will ask us, why do I have to be the one not to come to, I want to come and see my siblings, etc. Because people are not uninviting that person. So there are different answers, depends on what you can tolerate, where you are in that relationship, all of that, all of that. So I think the most important thing is gratefulness, and letting gratefulness open you up to possibilities, and exploring and asking yourself what can you handle? Can you be there? If so, maybe for a short time, and then still spend time with your people, with your loved ones, so some options.
Excellent. So we've been talking about emotional trauma, trauma of getting together, whether it's something, silly that people are fighting over and we're holding on to, or it's something really traumatic where it's dealing with abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, or sexual. So we're still in the midst of COVID. It is the gift that keeps on giving. And lots of people have been impacted by COVID. And, unfortunately, other diseases have been taking a break. That's true. You mentioned it, Dr. Angie, when people are positive, their health can improve. And it is amazing to me, as you said, when people will say, well, this is just part of my story. This doesn't define me. And I know there are a lot of people who I have heard who will say, yes, I experienced cancer. I experienced high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, whatever it is. And I struggle for a bit, but I'm past it. I'm better. Things are well. I really want to talk about, because we touched on it earlier, but we didn't really deep dive into it. How does the impact of being grateful really impact our health? Because earlier I said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And oftentimes we'll see people who are very angry. They show up on social media, somebody screaming at somebody. We'll be like, ooh, somebody woke up this morning angry. What are you angry about? Are you angry because your coffee order wasn't correct, or somebody throwing donuts, or you were asked to pull your mask up? I'm like, we're in the midst of COVID. And a lot of people will say, well, I'm just angry. And I don't really know why I'm angry, but I'm angry. And I'm like, well, can you redirect some of that anger into being grateful? My question is sort of twofold. One, how do we redirect anger into being grateful? And then how does being grateful really impact our health? Talk about that a little bit more.
Okay. But first of all, I love your saying. I was going to we're not going to say steal. I'm going to just know that you've gifted me with it. I'm going to take it.
Please.
I'm going to use it. I promise you credit.
I didn't make that up. I didn't make it up. I got that. somewhere. I don't remember where I got it from, but yes,
Oh,
I
I
got
love it.
it.
Like ripples in the water, right? Wherever it came from, we thank you. You know, I
Yes,
love
thank
it.
you.
That's a good one. I would say, okay, so the question of
How do
say
we
the first part. Oh, how do you redirect?
Yes, how do we redirect our anger into gratefulness? So when we see people, for example, often when I go get coffee, there will be somebody raging and I'm like, ooh, let them have their caffeine because evidently they need it, you know. And I know that sometimes you don't, when things move a little bit slower, we lack patience or things aren't going our way and we're struggling. But sometimes we get stuck in that anger.
Yes.
And I want people to get unstuck because we are in the midst of COVID. 5 million people around the world have died. Other diseases are still running around. People are still being impacted by that. And not being grateful really does impact our health. And you see it when people are negative and very angry.
Absolutely.
That it raises blood pressure, that it can raise your blood sugar levels, that it can not necessarily that it specifically can harden your veins, but people will say that a lot of times your body sort of closes off.
Absolutely.
Because you're so angry and there's a physical response that happens in your body versus
Absolutely.
when you're open, your body tends to open up.
Yes. Well, redirecting, that's something that I have successfully been able to do for the most part. Now you probably think I'm going to say something like, you know, when I was practicing in my therapeutic, which is true. But just in life, just like you said, you know, I'm a tea drinker, so if I'm gonna go get some tea and somebody's got an attitude, whatever. I have done this, and of course you got to pick your spots. But I mean, I approach people with a smile, you know, warm, whatever. But I will just like a simple thing. I think one of the quickest, most effective ways to do that, because I've done this and it has worked, is to point out something obvious that that you can probably assume that they're very grateful for. So, for example, I've done this particularly, you know, like you said, since 2020, COVID hitting, people losing employment and all of that. We're thankful that in our country it's coming back a bit, you know, it's getting better. But you know, all the people, all the businesses who had to shutter and all of that. So one thing I will say as an example, you know, pointing out something obvious that I'm pretty sure I know that they can't deny that they're grateful for. So see, that's a key right there. So I'll say, so people are like, oh man, I got to go to work. It's a blessing that you have a job to go to.
Amen.
Now, most times they'll say, no, you're right about that. You're right about, and they get redirected because, and I think one of the reasons, you know, I have to stop saying I think, I know.
There we go.
I do know. I know that one of the reasons that that's so effective right now, I do think that's a powerful thing, but particularly in this time that we're living in throughout the world, is it's not abstract. Because folks who've lost, you know, even if it's just they just in their town, in their neighborhood, you know, in the paper, and they say, oh, my favorite salon closed, you know, so people, it's brought home more. It's more tangible. It's more real to people, if not in their own lives, you know. So when I say that, it's not just some abstract. So pointing out, and with all love and kindness, something, even if a total stranger, something in their lives that you pretty much, something you can see, you know, it taking so long getting my coffee, you know, it's a blessing to have money to get coffee.
Amen.
That's what I hear. They'll say, you right now, you right. So that kind of thing, you know, man, you know, they hit a water line and the DT's got to come out. I'm hoping that heat is back on when I get home. Oh my goodness. Sympathy, and then point out. So, oh wow, you know, I'm so sorry, or empathy, you know, I know what that's like, especially that it's getting cold out here. That's awful. But I'm so thankful that, you know, that they're working on it and that you have a house to go home to. That's now, you know, that's because, and it's a couple of things. One is it's tangible. Number two, a tangible in terms of, they know folks, they know what's real. Number two, it's a way to and now everybody, most people respond well to this. Some folks are, may not be ready. They're too far gone into that, whatever. But the second thing that's reason that's powerful, I think, is because you're putting them in a position where if they just keep insisting, they begin to look like that they look publicly like they're just ungrateful.
Exactly.
There's something else I thought about too, in terms of redirecting. And that is, I was just saying this to somebody today, think about people who are struggling worse off. And it's like, yes, you're absolutely right. And for that person, he wasn't complaining, but he was trying not to worry about some things in his own life.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean his things are not important. But, I was thinking about that passage of in the scripture where Jesus, told the disciples, you will always have the poor with you. The poor, the widows, and the orphans, they will always be with you. Take care of them. Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of we never look down. We never. It's nothing like that. But I like to say to look out, not look down. I just made that up. Not look down, look out. Mm-hmm. I feel like Kimberly Baxter Davis.
I'll give you that. I like it.
Look out, but to look out and look beyond oneself. And actually, that's something my grandma used to talk about that all the time. Her famous quote was, "It's always I, me, and mine. I, me, and mine." Go out here and see about somebody. The surest way to redirect a lot of that anger for people who are able to take it in. For many people, not everyone, but for me, is to remind them and of those who don't have. To remind them that other people are worse off than you, and that's a quick reminder of it's another way of that same kind of thing of, what a blessing. I'll just say that to people too. Well, what a blessing that you have a house to go home to. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What a blessing that So that often works. And as far as the way that it affects us physically, okay, so we have seen the door open in our country anyway, in our society, for people to lose their natural minds.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
Or unnatural. So people just, wild out screaming. Okay, and I understand the stressors. Mm-hmm. But I think we can say that we're not talking about the stressors, which can be immense. We're talking about. Shall we just use the term entitled?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And actually, that kind of goes across, kind of covers both sides. Mm-hmm. And again, not to label what's real and true and what isn't. You never know what people are going through. That is true. Mm-hmm. So if you're really and truly struggling with something, or if you're just angry because your coffee's not coming fast enough. It's title it. The unhealthy, toxic environment that that the door has been open to in our country after the last so-and-so.
Exactly.
It had been over things. Is this sense of it's not that you're going through something, it's how you're handling it. Mm-hmm. And the sense of entitlement that I now have permission to just spew, just not share my pain. I'm going to just take that coffee or water. I'm just going to spew it, just spew it. And so that all of that, it's ugliness. It is ugliness. It's ugliness. So I'm thinking about, these people, just like you said, angry. When you're really angry, you don't even need to get a microscope and look internal. You can look at the external. Eyeballs are bulging. Now, every external cue and clue of your emotional state is like the tip of the iceberg, because with an iceberg, a little bit shows up out of the water and the biggest amount is underneath. So every physical manifestation that the rest of us can see while you're raging and spewing is only a hint of the damage that's being done inside, underneath in your body. So if your eyeballs are bulging because you're spending half the day angry, Those eyeballs are, they are attached. That's your ocular nerve, so it's attached to nerve endings, and you can see the veins and the eye.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're doing that to your own veins,
Mhm.
in your body, let alone, like you say, toxify the rest of the atmosphere. When people get really angry, and then that artery kind of like sticks out, that vein, you don't look good
At all.
it's not cute. It's not the glamour shot. You're just not really, you're not looking good. So if for no other reason than your vanity, nah, girl. See, you took time to we're about to go around the corner now. See, we just got to just come on out.
Come on, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Come on out. You took time to match your tie. Why you match your tie? You just ruined your look. You don't look right. You're like, y'all red. And you took it just it's ugly. It's not cute.
Round lines are in your forehead.
All up in here. Blush is not gonna help. We're not what we doing? What? No. No. So we call it toxic and damaging for a reason. So you're damaging yourself internally, you're damaging yourself externally because you're just taking away from your look, put yourself together, and you're damaging relationships, you're damaging your reputation. That, and we're in the age of just, the eyeballs are everywhere. Just
yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Everywhere. Just everywhere.
Street lights, buildings,
all of that.
Everybody can see you. If there's a video camera everywhere, they capture everything.
That's right. And have not people in the last couple of years, 2, 3, more than that now, and with all these cell phones and smartphones, haven't people lost their jobs when their bosses found out, is that the prejudice, bias, discrimination? Is that the activity you're doing? Really?
Or that's what you're doing? Or we work in a conservative environment. Why are you on TikTok or with Twitter with a bikini showing all your business? That's right. Okay, you're fired.
All your business.
That's right. All your business.
All your business.
All your business.
Stop.
Or they catch you online after, which always amazes me, Dr. Angie. People who commit crimes and then film their response, like, I just robbed the store at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Avenue and look at all this money. And I'm like, what? Okay.
They thought it was a home video. They didn't understand.
Yes. I'm
like, it was connected. It's connected.
So it's okay. Brain damage. You can have brain damage where, you do dumb stuff like that. But it's just, you're hurting yourself, you're losing your job, you're messing up your reputation, and you may have a few in your circle that pat you on the back like, look what you did, or whatever. But broadly speaking, it's damaging physically, it's damaging your reputation, it's damaging things that you have built, all of that. So we need to, as a society, particularly, I keep saying particularly in our country. We see it elsewhere because people do follow what we do, what they see. Not every little bit of it, of course, but it is an influence. What people see Americans doing. Although there are lots who look at us from around the world and wonder what in the world. But we need to kind of get back to, and again, gratefulness is a great tool to get back to reining that in, being thankful, and just kind of working on being grateful for where we are in life, how we got here, what we've built so far, and what we've been given so far. It's not all about what we built, what we've been, been blessed with and given, and that can tamp a lot of that toxic eye bulging. Absolutely. So, Dr. Angie, one more question, because our time is slowly leaving us.
It is.
How can we be grateful to ourselves? We talk about journaling. We talk about counting our blessings. But what happens when we've had a toxic relationship with ourselves and we're trying to heal? Talk about the importance of being grateful with yourself.
Oh, that's Yes, so important because it really does start with ourselves, our relationship. We talk about relationships and we remember that our relationship with ourselves is key, and it speaks to, all the other relationships we have. I think a few things are very important. One is, this is a big thing, and that is forgiving ourselves. That's really, really important. Again, circling back to the way we started this evening, defining terms, if we think of gratefulness and thankfulness as ways of appreciation. So if you appreciate yourself, then appreciate your that you have life, and with life comes some opportunities to try and do some things and to grow and all that. So I would say again, we can appreciate ourselves by naming it, actually saying, I like it. Give ourselves permission to actually say, I like these things about myself. A lot of times people get in the habit of downing themselves, putting themselves down, but to say, name the things you like about yourself. Forgive yourself for mistakes that you've made, even the worst ones that, you don't even want to call them mistakes. So that was so stupid, but forgive yourself for that. In terms, that's two things. And third is in terms of, again, the mentality of what we say to ourselves, our mental scripts, be gentler with ourselves. Tell the truth, say you messed up, say that, that was mean of me. I was being mean. Tell the truth, and then forgive yourself. And give yourself room to grow, give yourself permission to make mistakes, and know that you will make mistakes, can continue to make mistakes, but you also will grow. So to appreciate both of those, to name them, and to remind yourself that you are just an amazing creation. You're an amazing creation. And I'd say one other thing too, that I think we don't do enough of. We do it in our different families. But our ancestors, we didn't just drop here out of the sky.
Right.
The people who came before us, the people whose shoulders we stand on, and that's both in the family and out. Mentors, all those people who, as people say, poured into us, helped us, shared with us, disciplined us, all that stuff that came before us. I don't think all of those things, I know, go into the whole it's Thanksgiving recipe of the seasonings that went into making us who we are, and naming those things helps us to also to appreciate ourselves, because we are the culmination of all that went into us.
Absolutely fantastic. Dr. Angie, I am so grateful that you are a part of the Kim B. Davis Show, and that you are here to give us the best expert advice, because this isn't what you think. This is what you've taught. This is what you have researched. This is what you have learned. So you know it. Thank you for being here and being a part of the show and continuing to help.
Thank you. Uh-oh. I just want to wish everyone who is celebrating Thanksgiving a happy Thanksgiving. We've learned a little more about the true history of Thanksgiving. So while we may or may not, want to take the whole background of the truth of our Native American brothers and sisters, certainly setting a time aside to be grateful and thankful, I personally still champion. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and have a wonderful, safe, and blessed holiday. I just wanted to say that. And I'm very grateful for being a part of the Kim B. Davis family. I so appreciate being on here with you every month.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Angie. So now you have to tell us how we can find you. Tell us about your book, your music, your coaching group, you and your sister have a firm together. You have lots of things going on. So just let us know where we can find you and update us on all your information.
Okay, thank you for asking. You can find me several places. If you Google, you can look up Dr. Angela Celeste May. You can find me. I'm on my personal Facebook page, my professional Facebook page. My professional Facebook page is Dr. Angela Celeste May. All the rest of the social media is Angela Celeste May. So that's almost all. So that's Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. So, go over there and check me out there as well. I have a personal Facebook page. All of that's Angela Celeste May. You can follow me on Twitter at Celeste MUS, as in short for music. So Celeste MUS1, I think it is. Is that it? On Twitter. What else? Oh, and then in terms of my company with my sister, it's A.M. May and Associates Incorporated. So you can look us up. You can go to our website, ammassociates.com. We are a counseling, consulting, and coaching corporation. So we do personal, professional. I do doctorate counseling as well. If you're a doctorate student or considering going into a doctorate program in any field. And then we also both do, my sister Michelle May and we both do creative coaching as well for fellow creatives, because we are professional musicians. So we work with all kinds of artists, writers like yourself, fellow musicians. I'm a professional vocalist, an instrumentalist, but also dancers, anyone in the arts. So we do all of that coaching. If you go to our, excuse me, we have an AMA Instagram, AMA Associates Instagram, and AMA Associates Facebook page. And so on both of those, as well as our website, you'll see all of the things that we offer. Right now, we are running a power group for women, and we call it a power group because it's women, powerful women who are bosses themselves or have companies, or they're doing amazing things in their careers. And we meet every other Monday in the evenings. It's like a mastermind for people who are fellow leaders. So we're doing that right now. My sister is going to be doing her second virtual retreat for creatives in January. So we have lots of things on deck. So do go to our site and check it out. I have some workshops that I've done on a variety of subjects that we will be, that you can purchase. So we'll be, just look at all our social media. So see what all is there. You can contact me if you want coaching, please do. I'm also a college professor here in Detroit at the University of Detroit Mercy for clinical psychology students in the doctorate program. So I am an educator as well, and at Wayne County Community College District in their psychology department. My book is called Freedom. There it is. What is the experience of living without negative self-imposed limitations? It's research that I did with people from lots of backgrounds, and 7 key themes emerged from the book. And so people have found the themes of how to get unstuck, how to go from being stuck through to freeing yourself. And it has a lot to do with things, self-growth and things that people have learned. And these are themes in common that many people can relate to. So you can get the book at Amazon.com. So look forward there. What else? On the music side, as I said, I'm a professional vocalist, and I play multiple instruments. So I teach music through my music studio, through Celeste Productions. I have a production company, Celeste Productions Incorporated. You can go to my site on reverbnation.com/Angela Celeste May to see what all is going on musically. I'm a recording artist and producer. I have 2 albums out, so you can get both of those at Reverb Nation. You can also get my second album, which is called Reintroducing the Lady, from iTunes and from Amazon. What else is going on? Gosh, so many things happening. So that's a lot of what I'm doing right now. I have some new music and some stuff coming up in the new year. And I'm about to wind down. I'm about to end my presidency, actually, of the Michigan Psychological Association Foundation Board. So I'm very grateful for how I'm able to leave it and the new administration that's coming in. And I've just been recruited. I'll just end with this. I've just been recruited by a gentleman from the Michigan Health Council. And yeah, the Michigan Health Council, they are a nonprofit. They support providers, health providers, in many different ways, from all kinds of areas in which I say health.
Mhm.
But they realize as they're creating these councils, these different boards, and they're realizing that there was a gap. And I'm so glad that they realized that, because as we know, oftentimes people don't think of mental health when they
Yeah.
think of health. So the gentleman reached out and asked if I would join the board and represent the field of psychology. And so I'm very excited. I said yes. So I'm excited to start that in 2022. And in that position, it just gives me opportunity to help influence some of the direction and some of the supports that people in my field need. Both, as I say, psychologists, we deal with all aspects of behavior. So many of us do therapy, as of course, therapy and counseling, but we do lots of things, as well. So so that's a new thing coming up. So I'm excited about that. Awesome. So that's some stuff I've got on deck.
You have a lot of stuff, but congratulations. That is very exciting. I'm excited
Thank
for you.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I had not heard of them or him. And he said that people have said this to me, which I really appreciate, that my internet presence, he really liked my internet presence, and my, that I'm very entrepreneurial, which of course I am very entrepreneurial. So I appreciate that.
And that's why we are so grateful that you're part of the Kim B. Davis Show. Thank you again for coming on. We know that next month we'll have another fantastic topic. So I can announce it now. December is going to be a month of reflection, and we're going to be talking about looking back and reflecting on the good things that have happened in our life and how we can continue to practice being grateful, having gratitude, and just being at peace with ourselves, because that is what is so important so that we can live our best lives. Thank you guys for tuning in again. I hope that you'll tune in for our next show. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, TikTok, everywhere on social media. I am Kimberly Batchelor Davis. Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can see this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google. You can learn more about me as an author and see all of my books at kimbdavis.com. Again, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you have a fantastic holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to all who celebrate. And remember, always be magnificent.